it's gonna
Like shit, I gotta go through
reset
this
basically.
again.
Yeah, yep. And there was when we was getting high and shit. Basically, there's a lot of times where I was like, well, we'll do it this last time, and that last time basically ended up
Being so much fun.
yeah. Well, it basically it was nice while we got high, but right after that we have to go through this whole fucking withdrawal process again, and
That is by far the worst part.
right.
I mean, it's like, yeah, you let yourself do it, and then it's, fuck, man, now I can't do it. Maybe just one more time. Yeah, and to me, I kind of see that as like, if you can do that and you get past that first hump, man, I mean, that's really the hardest fucking part is day one, I think. I mean, just because I mean, you've made the decision. Well, it's the hardest part for people that take their words seriously or their promises to themselves seriously, because a lot of people just say, oh, I'm done. And then they got zero problems, zero restraint, and just immediately go back to it.
And that's the hard part too, is when you have that, like right now with having drug tests and whatnot, but if you have it, like right now, I've done my drug test for the week, or, I got the last one today, but that'll give me 5-6 days that basically I could get high, and it would be out of my system in time, but like I said, I think the biggest part of it now is just not going through that withdrawal symptom again, or the symptoms of it anyway.
And to me, that really doesn't seem like a healthy. I mean, it's not a healthy reason.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's like let's keep you from getting high. I don't want to go through that bullshit again.
And I mean, my kids being a part of it too, may get them back, but I don't know how it's going to be once I do get them back. That's the curious part is, if I'm going to want to stay sober all the time,
because that's the limiting factor is gone now.
Yeah, and won't have the drug test and all that, Now, I feel like, but it's like being in jail, and you feel like when you get out of jail, I'm not gonna smoke cigarettes. I don't want any cigarettes, But as soon as you get out and they're available to you and no consequence, yeah, immediately hit the first ashtray that you come across.
Yeah, a little bit high on that first one.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely something that I am dreading almost, is not having the
reason.
The reason, the limitation, the eye watching over me over my shoulder. Once I don't have that, I don't know it. I know that I like getting high, but I don't know if I'm gonna. If the feeling good is not. Like I know that I like to get high and it feels good to get high, but I don't know. Basically, my idea of staying sober is going to continue on, like that I'm still going to be happy with, or if it's me bullshitting myself, if my subconscious is saying, well, you do feel better now, da-da-da. I know that there's some parts of it that are absolutely true, that I feel better, but at the same time, I don't know if it's going to continue on for, and I don't, the having the eye watching me over my shoulder and making me do the drug test and all this to be able to get, that's, what stops me when I do, have my, when I do get cravings and shit, if I was just have them without any of that, I might use drugs again, but
that's for me, it's mostly just because it allowed me to do what I wanted to do. Like, I don't know if that's like actually like a YouTube violation or not. That's why I keep reaching for the motherfuckers and not liking it. I've never said anyway. Fuck it. Fuck them. They don't like it. Don't monetize me, bitch.
Yeah. But honestly, I hope that I'm able to maintain my sobriety. I hope that I stay happy. After all of it, but.
Yeah, for me, man, I don't have anything, like, I'm not being forced. I have no repercussions if I decide to break sobriety. And so for me, it's like I struggle because I can't enjoy life anymore, because that was I would get high and then code, and I would get creative. I'd be able to access that fucking part of my head that allows me to fucking do genius shit.
And I think a lot of it is like the AI thing said, that it silences all the background noise and allows you to concentrate on what you want to concentrate on. And yeah, I don't know. I struggle with that myself, that, that I'm always, it's like when my house is destroyed, if I start clean up. I see all these things that I need to do, and I need to, and it brings them to where I don't want to do it at that point. And then, but it's like if I do drugs, I'm able to see just the goal that I need right now, and rest of it just kind of I know it's there still, and I know about but it allows me to focus on this one thing and then get it. So I don't know if it's that I get more progress. I know that some. I don't know.
I think that our brains, I mean, there's a lot to it, like the neuroscience behind it all. And the problem with drugs is that it's like when you're a kid and you do something, you do your chores, or my parents, they would give me $5 per A on all my, on every report card when I was in elementary school. So I'd get 6 A's, I'd get $30 from my parents. So, it reinforced me to get A's because I like the benefit, the reward of getting, that $5 per A. And with drugs, it's basically, I think it's just a theory is that you're rewarding yourself for nothing. So I mean, eventually it gets justified into, oh, well, I had a good day today, so I'm a relapse guy. Or something like for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But the problem is that you're reinforcing a null behavior. So that's why it's so strong, and that's why your brain, so I, I am a firm believer now after day fucking 14 and 16, I think it was, where the humming started coming back, because that's always just, when I'm driving, I attribute that to my subconscious taking back over to work shit out on, so whatever it does, because I have a weird relationship with my instinct and all that. But I would hum when I was high, and then I'd stop getting high, and it went away. I never did it. And then on 14 days later, I'm fucking humming again. So that's just my brain rebuilding the pathways. So, I mean,
I think
really, the only thing that keeps me on the sober journey is that I'm hoping that my focus will come back.
I think that it's part of that is to do with just your general happiness, and that like when you're getting high you feel happy at that time, so you hum, and but and I am a firm believer that it takes time to rebuild those pathways in the brain to make you happy again, and
I'm not mad, but high.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But at the same time, like just like with me, just my general happiness with smoking weed, that made me happy. Or I felt like it was what made me, feel joy in life. And for the first and 2 weeks, absolutely the worst time. I feel bad for anybody that's in early sobriety, as far as because the first couple weeks and even the first month in total, it is probably the hardest time to like to get happy and stay happy, without the drugs. But it does seem to subside. Like you do end up becoming happy again, on naturally. Yeah, I don't. It's hard for me to discuss because I've only lived a couple months of my life sober. I've been pretty much high my whole life. And at least as the life that I had any control over. Of course, when I was, a kid and, had no control over anything in my life, what I wore, what I did, where I went, had no control over it,
I came out holding a bottle of Adderall.
yeah. Well, I mean, my parents used to rub methadone on my teeth so they could pass their test. So, I know that I could never pass a piss test my entire life, technically, because they would use my piss but they had to have the methadone in my system in order to pass their test because they had to show that they had methadone. So, basically, I know that I've never been able to legitimately pass a piss test. I don't know how much that affected me as a kid, if I ever got high on it or not. I know that when I was a kid,
As a baby, yeah.
I enjoyed spinning a lot when I was a kid, getting dizzy, and I think that's one of the first signs that you're gonna like getting high, But
I fucking hate being dizzy
yeah,
with a passion. I mean, you get me on any kind of ride that goes around or whatever, I'm like, no, sir, get me off this thing. Because I am going to throw up.
kind of worries me because my son, every time we go to the park, he wants me to spin him on the merry-go-round until he gets dizzy, and it's like I remember that as a kid, But like I said, it's hard for me to discuss because I haven't lived a sober life, for any of it that I had control over, if I was in control of my life, I was getting high my whole life, So uh, it's hard. Like basically, I have very little experience in sober living, really.
I'm trying to remember my sober life because I never touched drugs at all in any way, shape, or form until I was 20-ish, and I mean, I remember mostly rage and anger.
And like the one time that I remember being sober and that I had, which was another point of my life that I wasn't in control, that I was in prison. So it was basically yeah, like the cigarette thing. As soon as you're out and it's available to you, I was back getting high again. But so I don't think that that even counts as a sober time in my life. Just like the time when, so I'm not even sure if this point in my life counts as like truly sober living because I'm forced to do it at this
I was
point.
just gonna say, I think the hard
I
truth
mean,
of the matter is that I don't think it's really sober living unless you're doing it by choice.
yeah, and I know, yeah, exactly, and basically at this point I know that like being forced to do it is totally like I've never wanted to be sober, and I don't even know now if I truly want to be sober, unless I'm
I don't.
being forced to, like I know that I enjoy getting high, or having a buzz of some kind of my, and it's never mattered to me what it was, whether it was alcohol or weed or meth or crack
Banana
or
peels.
any of that beep whatever we got to beep out during that. But I'm sure basically it didn't matter what it was. I just always liked getting high, and I'm more hopeful this time that because like I do have a choice at this point. Like I have no criminal charge. I'm not faced with going to prison and being forced into sobriety. I'm forced with losing my kids or, delaying time. I could go get high right now if I wanted to, but that's going to delay me getting my kids back or inevitably, end up messing it up to where I don't get them back. So, and my kids outweigh getting high for sure. But,
That's where I struggle the most, man. Is I don't have that. This outweighs that.
yeah.
I mean, there's literally zero reason that I can think of morally or just rationally for why I shouldn't do drugs.
And I would struggle with it too. I think that your struggle is a little more, you know,
It's a
intense
different
than
area
mine for sure
in a different
because
way, but yeah.
it's like I'm in jail right now. It's like I'm being forced to do it and it's not available to it technically
But
is,
you've got the
but
suffering because you've got something taken from you, and so you got to prove that you're willing to do it. And whereas I'm just fucking doing it.
yeah.
Yeah, for what reason I don't yet understand.
Well, I definitely appreciate it, in the very least because it makes it easier to hang around you. And, like I would hang around you either way because you're my friend, but one of the only friends that I have. But and that's something you also learn during sobriety is who your real friends are. You know what I'm saying? I know that even if you was still getting high, I would still be able to be around, or you would still want to hang out with me and stuff like that. But basically, it makes it a lot harder when like basically I seen, an unspoken member of my family, do a line of something the other day before I took her to work, and I,
How was that? I mean, was it tough to not want to do it yourself?
oh, absolutely, like I wanted to, well, but I know if I do it, I'm gonna fail a test, and that's that's gonna put 3 months, basically.
Set you back.
Yeah, I'm into it now to where I'm a month ahead, and basically
It's like
every
that
time I
joke.
do it, it resets the clock on me, and
It's like that.
eventually that clock is going to stop resetting and they're just going to, not give them back to me. So, I basically don't have a choice. I don't know if I could do it in your situation, maybe in, solidarity for a friend, maybe I could, if I felt like, they needed me to be for their but it would still be absolutely difficult, a lot more difficult than having something on the line.
I think the biggest problem, hey, first, it's like that joke with you, your situation is like full walk, decided he's going to swim swim the entire length of the ocean, got halfway and got tired, said, I ain't going to make it, turned around, went back. Yeah. It's like, so anytime you mess up at this point, you're kind of the butt of the joke,
Yeah.
because you're past the halfway point.
Yeah, I'm basically putting myself backwards, and never making it to that destination. And yeah, I don't know. It's definitely something that
Makes you want to learn kung fu and karate chop a cow.
with and in case this whole thing posts, I do want to be clear that and basically
Drugs are bad.
yeah, drugs are bad, and uh,
I mean, my whole point in starting this whole thing is just for the people, because there's a lot of people out there. I'm sure it's a minority of people, but I mean that for me specifically, I have no reason to quit. I'm just doing it because I'm trusting that there is a light at the end of the tunnel that I just haven't been able to intellectualize myself into seeing, and that life was going to get better. I mean, but at the same time, it opens up so many other pains, man. being sober all the time. I mean, especially if draws makes me feel hyper aware of my emotions. Man, I'm lonely and shit like that. Whereas before, I mean, yeah, and I just shrug it off like any shit because I'm so focused on what I enjoy doing.
Well,
And now it's just basically I get to sit around and think, wow, I'm a fucking sad sack. This is amazing.
if it helps you, that definitely goes away in time. The longer that you set, like I don't have enough experience to tell you that it'll ever completely go away, or you don't feel like it. But I do have the first couple months of experience, and I know that. Especially in the first week of sobriety is the worst with that feeling emotions, overly, I never get emotional during a movie. I can laugh at the Titanic sinking, but at the same time, and now if I was to watch, in that first week, I might have teared up like a little baby, and
Well, it's not quite what I'm talking about. I mean, it is for sure because I mean you're raw from abstaining, but for me it's more like it's like my worldview changes because before I'm like I can die alone and I don't give a shit. I mean I'm just it is what it is. I don't mind. And now without that mask, I guess it's more of a well, do I really want to die alone? And I don't like that at all because I mean it's not going to change my life at all. Other than I'll have another person to worry about in my life. I think that it's my drug use stems from me trying to be myself, not escape from myself. If that
okay.
makes any sense.
And there's no guarantee that you won't anyway, either way, because, like, if my wife passed away before I did, I doubt that I'd ever find happiness with anybody else. So I would end up dying alone anyway, so,
We all die alone.
yeah. Well, I mean, kind of, what if, if she dies before me, yeah, she died alone, but she died with somebody, you know what I'm saying? But if I died before her, then,
It's not your
and she
problem
can't
anymore.
find love again, then, she's basically going to die alone, which,
I think it's good practice.
well,
Dying alone for the next time around. No,
they say that you get locked up by yourself, you come in by yourself, you go out by yourself. But I actually the first time that I went to jail, I went to jail. Me and my codependent went to jail at the same time, spent every day in the same cell, and got out on the same day.
yeah,
But I know that's a rarity. That almost never happens. But
well, and another huge problem for me is that I can turn any narrative into my view. I mean, there's not a scenario that exists where I wouldn't be able to be like, well, da 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 da, and it suits my world.
yeah, I can at least convince most of the world that that I was right in whatever. Even if I know that I'm bullshitting by whatever I say, like I can word it well enough to where most of the world will buy it anyways.
Yeah, it's like, well, when you don't even know what your own fucking thought is at the end of the day. I mean, like, because I don't even know what I'm being sober for. Yeah, that's so much harder because there's no game plan I can make. I'm just white knuckling it, gritting my teeth, and just doing it,
See,
man.
but I think that that's healthier for you, as far as just your mental stat, because
If it was a bad thing to begin with,
yeah, yeah,
but I don't see it that way.
yeah, and I agree, but see, I have an out date right now. It's like you're in prison for life, basically. Like and I have an out date. So when I get out, I don't know what I'm gonna do. You know what I'm saying? Like you making the conscious decision to do it on your own is kind of like,
Well, that's really my what keeps me on the path right now is the idea that I'm doing this and I'm documenting it, writing it all every step of the way for somebody else to come behind me and be able to do it too.
yeah.
And so maybe that's why I mean maybe I'll make that my freaking reason for doing it is because I know that you're about to go through it too.
And,
And
I'm sure it will. If Brian can do it, I can do it. That's always been a thing for him. Is that basically I feel like I'm a strong person mentally and physically, and when basically I feel like if someone else can do it, I should be able to too.
yeah,
Uh,
and I'm not. I mean, I'm saying mentality, and I'm not seeing a single person. But I don't. Grant, I'm not looking for it either. I'm not seeing anybody else write the way I write or experience this whole thing the way I experience it. So I mean, that's
and even if that's the case, and that when I get my kids back and all that and all this is over, that
I mean, I would
uh,
like to think I did
I
for some reason.
I still have a big head start on you because I've been sober this long and able to see the positive benefits of it. And, you started without having that, that have to, or
Same end
it's like
result, but
basically
different
a guy
rules.
in jail that gets out, he has a better chance of quitting smoking right then because he's went a year without a cigarette. But and even though it's tempting right then at the beginning, but it's almost like starting it over, because basically like when you get out and you want that cigarette, that the okay, when you first go to jail, you crave that cigarette, and it's
I'm lucky. When I go to jail, it's like my mind shuts down that part. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I
I do
can't
too.
have it, so I
And
don't
then
need it.
that's kind of how the sobriety thing is. But the day you get out, that part of your mind fires back up. Yeah. Well, and that's I think that's what I'm most fearful of. At this point is that I'm fearful of that day when I get out. That that part of my brain is going to kick back in, and that I'll have to fight it all over again.
Well, I'll admit to it, like there's one aspect of it that really I'm kind of bitter about, honestly, because I can't enjoy the same perk, and that is that there is a fallback for you guys.
No.
The bottle. I don't drink.
Yeah.
Can't do it. I don't like to drink. So I don't have that. Well, supplement. I see it as a supplement. And it's not like I hold it against you guys or anything like that. It's just like, man, it would be fucking nice if I had something to change my headspace.
Yeah.
But there is nothing because I don't do nothing.
And realistically, I'm still, and that's what makes me fearful. Is at that point, I'm still taking a chance because I know that basically alcohol only stays in your system for saliva for 24 hours, and basically, so
it's an improved
I know that
method.
I know that it's a lot easier. Basically,
I know it makes it a lot easier.
I get a lot more leeway with I can do this, and it's like with smoking weed, that's absolutely out of question because that's going to restart the clock by 30 days. Doing the other drugs like speed, whatnot. Those it's only a 3-day thing, and I'll be passing tests again, but
it's a new struggle.
Yeah, it's the new struggle of going through it, but
look at my sobriety dogs.
I guess the more, I don't find it nearly as embarrassing to smoke weed, or smoke a gas station pen that anybody can go and get and they're going to fail for THC. So, but I definitely don't want, any kind of narcotics or anything like that showing up on one of my drug tests. It would be embarrassing for me for that to show up, or for that to be, the reason that I didn't get my kids back. And I know that those are a lot more of a struggle to stay away from for most people, but for me, it's the weed that's harder, and it just makes it a lot more difficult for the addicting traits of the other drugs definitely are heavier, but once you're away from them, now it's what stays in your system, and I know that at the end of the day, if my kids are on the line, then I'm gonna stay sober, but I guess at the end of that, am I still gonna be strong enough to continue in this journey,
It's a matter of strength. I think it's a matter of want. I think what do you want out of life?
I think if we continue doing this to where it, and it does get some kind of following, then it would make it a lot more worth it it would make it a lot more worth it to me too, because that would be another thing that it's like an embarrassment if I do fail at that point and I don't,
That's a good point. I think that, my conversation with AI, because almost every post I make, I always feed it through them and get, a read on what, because AI is essentially at the end of the day, it's you. It adopts your tone, adopts your worldview almost. And so with the right prompting, because one of the AIs I've created it's got the persona of Carl Jung, Sigmund Freud, B.F. Skinner, all the great psychologists throughout history. And I get a breakdown of what they would say if they were presented with a case like that, essentially, or this working.
Yeah.
And it gives me the ability to get a new perspective, a bunch of different perspectives, actually, on what I'm going through. And because I intellectualize everything. That's just the way I do things. That's the way I process the world, is I think about it. And I forgot where I was going with that. Yeah, but anyway. Yeah. And a lot of the interactions, a lot of my posts, that's one thing they bring up, is that I'm kind of like setting my own repercussions. Like if I fall through, it's an embarrassment for me, and that's one thing I won't do is lie to myself. I don't lie to anybody,
Yeah.
so I'm definitely not gonna lie to myself. And so making all my writing public and my journey public, then it's a safeguard against me relapsing.
Now, and that's absolutely it. I feel like if this was to take off, if it was to go anywhere, then I probably would be a lot more likely to maintain my sobriety because
I don't want to
it's
be a hypocrite.
yeah, exactly. And but if we have one view at the end of the video, at the end of my when I get my kids back and all that, and my force to be sober
So
is
you hear that? It's all your fault if
Yep.
we relapse. So
absolutely. Now, I know that ultimately it's on me, but
still there.
without having a
without
someone-
people that care
Yeah.
that we don't know and probably never talk to, giving us money.
no, without having somebody to be embarrassed about,
hold
then,
accountable.
then yeah,
Hold
yeah,
accountable.
yeah. If someone doesn't hold me accountable, then I believe that it's going to be way harder for me too. I've always been a supportive person. I want to help people, and I feel like if this was to reach an audience and people was to find it helpful, then I'd be much more likely to maintain my sobriety for sure. But and I'm not saying that for people to get on and view the video and all that, or
I am.
it would be nice, absolutely, if it went somewhere, and people listen and it helped people. But
That's
I'm saying
fine.
that if I don't have that embarrassment, then or someone watching over my shoulder, to it feels like it's going to be entirely harder on me, which is why I do salute you and your sobriety, and because it is a whole different demon to deal with, that you're doing it without being accountable for it. Basically you're doing it by your own choice. I know you hold yourself accountable, and I do too, but in some way, I guess,
I don't have anything to lose by doing it again, really.
yeah, I'm able to say fuck myself. You know what I'm saying? Like, basically, other people, if I'm not gonna do something embarrassing,
I've talked way too much shit in my posts
yeah,
to let myself. So I slid once, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all because it is what it is. I said I wasn't. I was talking all that shit. Like it's easy to be. It's easy to stay. It's easy to be sober. It's hard to live sober.
yeah,
And then I went and did it after 10 days. Now this time I don't even count the days. I've really been bad about counting days because I think it makes it harder. Like counting your days till you get out of jail. It's harder. So, but I think I'm at like 16 days now, something like that. And like I said, I do note the changes. Like my metacognitions come back and my homings come back, and I don't have cravings all the time. I haven't had any today. Didn't have any yesterday. But the 3 days previous to that, oh my gosh, all day, nonstop, unrelenting. Yeah, it was rough. But at the end of the day, that dragon's not gonna ride my back, and I'm not gonna fucking engage with it if I don't have to. I'm gonna punch him this
yeah.
dick.
And I think the one advantage that nice that you have or over me is because I have all the different. I know that you look at as kind of a disadvantage that the drinking or but I look at it as kind of an advantage because I have I don't care what buzz I get. As long as I catch a buzz, I'm okay. Like I still get that dopamine release. So I feel better. But so
That's why I see it as a disadvantage, my brother. It's because you're basically replacement therapy in yourself.
yeah.
So you,
Oh yeah, and I know that, but it's
but it's on the
that's
positive
why I
note.
think it's an advantage for you is because you don't care to the replacement advantage. It's a disadvantage for me because I can replace with something else and I don't care as long as it's a buzz.
It's a valid like psychological thing for recovery too. Is I can't remember what it's called. It's something harm, but basically it's the fact that you went from an illegal substance to a legal substance. It's progress and it's healthy. It's considered good under this framework.
Yeah, but
So,
and the whole thing is what's you. There's so many things that you can go out there and do that is perfectly legal to do, and society doesn't see a problem with, like drinking or those pins or whatever. But honestly, yeah, it's the society problem is the problem is that honestly, when it comes down to it, the most addicting thing in America today is that cell phone. People can't get off of it. They can all day long, constantly on it, ignore people for it, ignore their friends and family just to be on it.
Well, it should be easy for you then, because
Oh,
by
yeah.
that logic, cell phones are the most addictive. You don't ever use that fucking thing if you can help it. So how about elevating the status of drugs above cell phones,
Well,
and then you'll stop using them?
yeah. I mean, that's
I know it's easier said than done. I can't just make myself feel like cell phones are less than drugs,
But I do feel like, if you want to catch a buzz, as long as your bills are fed, you're taking care of yourself, your dependents are fed. I don't feel like it's a problem to be, but I feel
I
like
agree. And
I feel like it's a problem to be on that phone all day and not paying attention to the people around you. And I guess for me, I need to realize, or I need to come to the conclusion that it is a problem rather than, or that, I'm taking something away. I just never feel like I'm taking anything away from the people around me to catch a buzz. And actually, I feel like I'm actually helping our interactions, because I can be, depressed sometimes. I can be down, about,
maybe it can be looked at like getting high gives them a fake song,
well,
because obviously by default, if you're doing something, you're not you. That's not who you are naturally by default, because you need it to get to there.
I think the problem with me with that is that, I like myself. Don't get me wrong, but
it's not about you.
It's yeah, exactly.
It's liking how other people feel about you,
exactly,
or how you interact with them. I mean, I'm the same. I mean, I get mad. I fucking feel like a complete jerk, and especially if I'm overblown it somehow.
Yeah.
And I hate that feeling more than anything. And if I thought that drugs never affected that. If I'm a jerk, I'm a jerk. I'm wrong, no matter how high or not. I still feel bad about it. But if I thought that getting high could get rid of that and just give me free license to be whoever I am, who I want to be.
And with me, I think a lot of it is that I'm able to, like, I'm able to ignore the small things if I'm getting high, or if I catch a buzz. I'm able to, if something bothers me, I'm able to, blow it off pretty quick. But, but if,
We got the secret. Just got put on top of her face. Nope, she spit it out.
But if I'm not getting high, something small will just ruin my entire day, And I know that I can get over it, But it's like I can dwell on something so small, and I don't know.
You know what I think the AI? I bet you, we'll do that as an experiment after. We know what the AI would say about that. My little psychological group. They'd say you're not angry because of the small event. You're angry because of how you handle a small event, or how you feel it. Because it's like I shouldn't be mad about this, and so it pisses you off.
Yeah.
It's like, this is just something small. Why can't I just let it go? And so I think, I can't remember. It's Frankel maybe. His whole thing was this unconditional positive regard, the ability to accept somebody, flaws and all, and for being themselves. Doesn't mean you have to like them.
Yeah.
But you can accept them for who they are. That's largely what I'm trying to do.
That's hard for me, is
It's
to
very hard.
accept someone that I feel is wrong, or feel that, isn't doing what they're supposed to in life. But, that's society's problem with me, I guess, is that, they feel like I'm not doing as I'm supposed to and staying sober. And,
Very true. I mean,
I guess I can see where they're coming from, that, this is bad, because,
okay.
be stepping on it. My pretty girl.
Are you that sober, doggy? You that sober, buddy? Yes, you are, aren't you? You're one of them.
I respect my dogs in that manner for sure, that they can live a sober life and be happy the whole time, and
So let's give them a piece of candy every once in a while.
but they have not experienced it like that neither. You know what I'm saying? They don't have the choice, basically.
She's like, I don't need to get high. Look at my boobs. I got boobs, Dad. You can
One of
rip
my
them.
big problems with society's view on it is that,
It's judgmental as shit.
Well,
and it's
yeah,
not,
and
it's contextual. It's subjective.
there's so many addictive things out there, like gambling or driving fast, and those things ain't a problem. If you go to a racetrack, you can drive fast all you want, and it's not a problem. It's like, and that's where I feel like, as long as I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, I'm at the racetrack getting high, and it shouldn't be a problem for the world, because I'm doing everything, they're taking the safety precautions at the racetrack and doing what they're supposed to. Like,
I mean, it's like I've always said for a long time, I have a problem with for your own good laws.
Yeah.
And most laws regarding drugs and substances are for your own good laws.
Yeah.
Now I'm all about like if you murder somebody, you break the law, absolutely do the time, whatever. I'm not against that. But for drug use, I mean, come on, man. I mean, that's a. What do you care if I'm doing drugs?
Yeah.
Now, if I get high and I go out and rob somebody, then yeah, take me to jail for robbing somebody.
Right.
But drugs, man, that's none of your freaking business.
You go to the casino and you get addicted to gambling, you're just as likely to go home and rob grandma for $20 as if you was to go. But there's casinos all over the place, and it's okay because it's all about corporations. People make money off of it, and if they make money off of it, and yeah, basically the reason that they don't want drugs illegal like the street drugs is because they want the corporations to make money off of it. They want you to go to the doctor, get their type of speed. That way, the insurance is paying them for that type of speed or that type of downer or Xanax or whatever. You can't just go get them off the street because that's putting money into a person's pocket instead of a corporation's pocket.
I think it's all a conspiracy, man. They don't want you to realize when you get high, you fucking get all the secrets of the universe, bro, and then you can see through their bullshit, man.
And that's, I mean, honestly, I think that's when has money not controlled the world? When has, basically corporations control the world at the end of the day, and that's why they control the drug scene.
I'm sure all the way back in Sumerian times, whoever had the money, the god people, the priests, I don't know what they're called, the people that were all about their gods and all that, I'm sure they still accept charity and tithes and all that. And I'm sure they got favor.
See, and when it all boils down to it, all the money still goes back into the system. The drug dealer still takes his kids to goes to Kings Island. They still buy new cars. They still buy new rims to put on. They're still spending that money back into corporations. So it's like, how does it going to the doctor or how is that
I think that's going to be one of my future projects is tracking entropy based as if money was entropy in a closed system. Where does it go? Does it leak out entropy or does it just? Because entropy can only rise; it can never get lower. And if money is entropy in our society in a closed system, I bet you that they would show some interest.
And maybe it's just the simple fact that pharmaceutical companies, end up billions of dollars go to them, billions of dollars paid back into the U.S. government, where our illegal drugs that are bought off the street are most of the time shipped in from Mexico or Cuba, or, so it's sending money out of the country, and that's what they have a problem with. But it's like, if that was the case, then why are, German engineered cars allowed here? You know what I'm saying? Why wouldn't they, because they're sending all that money off to Germany, or,
But, it just that brings the thought, like, all the money the government spends on the war on drugs is probably supplemented by the import on Hondas.
Yeah.
Money in, money out. How about getting off our asses? But granted, I'm not trying to advocate for drugs.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it's such a big problem for a stupid bunch of reasons.
Yeah. I just wish I understood more why, doing pain pills from the doctor is just as addictive and just as many health problems. You see any commercial for any drug anymore, and the side effects list is 10 times the size of the benefit list.
And most of the time, it includes what you're trying to suppress.
Yeah, exactly. And, is it just because, I wish I knew a little more about why exactly it's such a problem for, I don't know.
So let's just get... That didn't come out right. So let's get high, man.
Yeah.
No, don't. Drugs are bad.
Drugs are bad, okay.
Okay. Bella, tell them goodbye. That's all for now. We're almost at an hour.
Yeah.
Tell them goodbye. Tell them goodbye, fellas.
Probably entirely too long for the video, but hopefully people watch it. That way I remain sober after.
Yeah, don't forget to pay us.
Yeah.
And